Making this video because I really couldn't find anything on YouTube, and if it helps somebody else down the road, it'll save them time because, well, it took me a few days to figure it out. So the issue that I was having, and ultimately this here is my problem. The fuse box needs to be replaced, so I just ordered one of those. But for the time being, I got it hooked up to where it'll run. The issue I was having, I was getting a P1682 code, and then sporadically I was getting other codes as well, U101, U100, and I believe those were just from me disconnecting the computer. So what was happening was I had a crank no start issue. I still got car's been sitting for a few days. It always does that back left wheel speed sensor gets stuck or something, but it'll go off as soon as I drive it. So what was happening was I got the P1682 code. I was having a crank no start, which is odd because on the 2007s, 2008s, 2009s, usually when what happened to me happens, you don't get a crank at all. You have nothing. So you go to turn the key and it does absolutely nothing. First thing you want to look at before you even go any further is if when you turn your ignition on, you don't see that check engine light pop up right there, you're not getting communication with your PCM, ECU, whatever you want to call it. So you want to make sure that pops up before you even start going anywhere down the line. So what I found was I was getting crank, so this is your run start here. That's for your starter. And this one is your powertrain control module. Okay, so I was getting crank, I was getting ground here, so it would crank. Normally, like I said, it wouldn't crank. Like normally when this happens, they won't crank. So my issue was here. When I tested the relay worked fine, and then you all obviously switch them all out, whatnot. Relay wasn't coming on, which basically caused my throttle body control module not to work. I had no injector pulse, and I had no spark. So I just cranked and cranked and cranked and cranked. So what I ended up finding is J1 here on your ECU. If you go to J1, that's this one right here on top. I got it all taped up now because I'm done. I didn't plan on making a video, and I thought about, hey, I'm going to help somebody out down the road. So I went to my J1, found the solid yellow wire. You know which one it is because it's right next to a solid green wire. So there's other yellow wires in there with tracers on them. There's a yellow wire in there with a black tracer. There's a yellow wire in there with a white tracer. You want the solid yellow wire. And what that does is once you turn your ignition switch on, that sends power to fuse box. It powers, I don't know if you can see that, and it depends on how you have your relay in, but if you have the relay in there like that, with the number 3142 or 3114 looking at you, you should have power on pin 87 and 86, and those are these two here closest to you. So you should have power here. These will test out as grounds, okay? It's not until you get a ground from your control module, from your ECU. So when these power, it sends power down through your number 5, it turns the ECU on, and then the ECU itself sends a signal back up to the box, into the relay, and gives it a ground. And once that your 85, which is this one here, the one on the right, top right, once your 85 gets your ground, it'll close that relay and then send power to your 86. 86 in turn sends power to your throttle body control, your injector pulse, and your spark. So what I did is I went down here, found that yellow wire I was talking about, and I remember it's the one right next to the green one. I found my yellow wire. I cut into it. Now you can't just test to see if you have a ground because you'll always have a ground there with it on, off. You can't just test that. So you actually have to cut the wire, and then you want to take continuity test from here, from where you cut your yellow wire, on this side of the wire, not the ECU side of the wire, but on this side of the wire, your harness side of the wire. You want to take continuity, see if you have continuity from here to this pin here, top right pin. Okay, if you're not getting continuity, then you know you don't have a good ground coming from your ECU. What it ultimately ended up being here is the fuse box, which is common on these, but it sure beats you know, having to get an ECU and programmed and all that. This is pretty simple to pull out. I mean, I can have this out of here and the thing actually split apart in less than 5 minutes. So that's easy to replace. So what I ultimately ended up doing, now this is just temporary fix. I mean, I guess it would work if you didn't want to buy a fuse box, but I'm not going to. I'm gonna, I already ordered the fuse box, so I'm just gonna wait on it. But for the time being, I ran from my yellow wire on the ECU side. Okay, so my yellow wire here on the ECU side. I ran a wire up onto my relay, basically bypassing the ground circuit in the fuse box itself and just attaching it right to the relay. So when you shove that relay in, you have your power, you have your number 5 fuse, which is going to throw power down to your ECU. Or, I'm sorry, no, your ECU turns that on. No, I apologize, it's not number 5. It's one of these. I'm wrong about that, scratch that. Anyways, one I think is your ECU fuse. Your ECU fuse is going to send power down to your ECU, and your ECU is going to turn on, and it's going to send ground back up here to engage your relay. So I hope this helps somebody down the road. Remember what pins you're looking at. Your top right one is where the ground pin is, and that is number 85. Okay, so 85 is where you want that, as long as you have the relay in like this, because they are designed to go in the other direction. And then I suppose your ground pin would be 86, but this is the way that I have it, so that's where I'm at. So again, top 2 prongs towards you, 12 volt, ground and ground. Okay, this pin here won't energize until the relay closes. Okay, so once this relay closes, then that's when that, I believe it's the 86 pin, energizes, sends power to your 15 here, which is number 5, sends power to all your drivetrain electronics through there. You know, it basically grounds everything out, to be honest. After it goes through the relay. But that's a quick fix for somebody that maybe cannot afford a fuse box. I mean, they're not much, man. I think I got it used when it was like $100 with shipping on eBay. So they're not much, but if you don't have it, if you don't have the money, there's no reason why you have to replace that. It's ultimately doing the exact same thing. But this took me a few days to figure out, and there was just nothing on this P82 issue. P82, everybody came at me with, you know, change your ignition switch. But, you know, when you get in the car and you turn your ignition to the run, if you hear those chimes, you know, I mean, that's a pretty good indication that your ignition switch is working. So, and I did see on a bunch of forums that I was reading on, where a bunch of people did, you know, take the advice of the stuff that they were reading on Google and the videos they're seeing on YouTube, where people are replacing their ignition switch, people are replacing their throttle body control, and ultimately it comes down to the fuse box 9 out of 10 times. And like I said, in my case, it was just a ground. But that's just temporary for the time being until my fuse box shows up. So, alright guys. Thanks for watching. If you're watching it, I hope this helps you. Let me know in the comments. Take it easy.